Right, let's check out the week's trends with Yavi Madurai, who's Managing Director of Black Box Theory, and a couple of stories really making news, some of them tragic, of course, and we want to kick off with what happened in Khayelitsha. Yavi Madurai, just share with us, and welcome to the program, by the way, just share with us the nature of how without a doubt it was trending. What was the nature of a lot of the tweets regarding that mass shooting which left so many tragically dead?
So the court case that happened this week, Wednesday, the story about the firearm being found, and obviously 5 dead in that mass shooting. So unpacking all of those details, and obviously the media, the actual media, the formal media were covering it and reporting on it, and people were picking up bits and pieces from it, and just in terms of how it went down, the people that were arrested, the stories that they told, it was really gory. I mean, that was like, yeah, you'd swear you were listening to a story about a Hollywood movie, but no, it's right in South Africa.
Well, the running theme there, Yavi, seemed to have been around the injustice. We know that mass shootings were not an anomalous event, certainly not in Khayelitsha, and so a lot more pressure on policing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now we unpack a different aspect to it. We unpack a different angle to it in terms of the injustice is one thing, but going forward, what does that mean? Because when we look at various types of criminal offenses, and when you look at things that people were comparing it to from a social media perspective, it spoke about the aspects around gun control, the aspects around access to guns, the access around the aspects around why would these kind of people have access. All of those kind of things we're having discussion, and the police now are under pressure to be able to look at it from various aspects, not just about the murders. While the murders are the central focus of the story, obviously, this is also about the gun, the access, and the injustice, obviously, as you said. So yes.
And then the other story, one of the big stories as well, is on Edwin Sodi, and not for the reasons you might think, but being billed as a ladies' man, at least as far as what I was observing earlier this week. What can you tell us about that trend?
Yeah, so the billionaire that has a penchant for women in the public eye is how it basically, I'm summarizing at the people's words. And obviously the top story, or the story that got it all going, was the story around the fact that girlfriends got access to tenders and, maintenance. And one particular girlfriend said, well, babe, thank you for, and she finished the sentence in terms of the type of tender that she got. And then obviously girlfriends started speaking out. And there's one particular blogger that spoke about, his potentially a rumored current girlfriend. And things just went south, as it does on Twitter in South Africa. And then also, obviously, the discussion then carried on. And we're now tracking, all the ladies that Edwin Sodi has been involved with. And people are having discussions around that. Once again, you'd swear you were part of a Hollywood movie, but no, right here in South Africa for a different reason.
And it's so interesting that, having made headlines, particularly insofar as the state of capture report is concerned, that seemed to have been eclipsed by this notion or this framing of this man as, such a playboy, this billionaire playboy.
I was out of the loop for a couple of, I think it was about 2 days because I was traveling, and I didn't see this. So when I saw Edwin Sodi, I saw the headlines, and I only saw the discussion around the ladies, the relationships and his, all of that. I actually never realized until yesterday that this story started with something else, and this is how it ended up, because obviously I saw the end of it. And this is exactly it, Iman, is that when you look at social media and I always call it the voice of the people, is that how a story could start, or where it starts with the media, you guys, and how it ends up in terms of the conversations that happen from a social media and from the people's perspective and what they take away from a story and how they keep the conversation going. It's always fascinating to me.
All right, let's move on quite quickly. It's amazing how discussing trends really eats up the time. Let's talk about Trevor Manuel then. He's set to resort to legal action after you heard, the furore around JJ Tabani, and who's apparently failed to meet his deadline to retract the allegations that Manuel had a hand in the formation of COPE.
Absolutely. So this is obviously getting all kinds of attention, and yes, missing the deadline, but also the discussion that is happening on social media. So what, obviously you covering it from a news perspective, the stuff that is happening on social media is around, well, who started COPE and what would they have got for it, and how the political navigation has started to the discussions that are currently happening and how that is currently progressing. I have a feeling you and I are going to be talking about this as the #1 top story next week or in the week after, just because of the fact that this is now going to open up a can of worms, shall we say.
All right, and we cannot leave Arsenal out of things. So this is an area I'm going to leave to you and probably 100 million people on Twitter that had something to say, Yavi.
I am not going to attempt to get into the depths of this because I may get shut down by all of the football players or football watchers that are around. But basically, a red card, who's into Spurs, has created a whole lot of drama on social media. Twitter had a lot to say, and as we know, the armchair players have their opinions, and yeah, it literally just got out of control, as you can imagine, if there's a red card and a loss.
And we've only got a breath left, but we cannot leave without talking about the Real Housewives of Durban, darling. And unfortunately, we didn't watch the second episode in the reunion. The first one was kind of there. In fact, when I looked at the trends, there was a little bit of disappointment that some of the juicy themes in this last season weren't adequately covered, including how do I know all these people? But anyway, I feel like I know them. Nonku's mum and what she had allegedly said at the birthday or the celebration that they had, and being quoted out of context, and that became an overriding theme of this last season.
Absolutely. So obviously today was, the first part of the second season and all of that. So everyone's having a discussion. The biggest themes out of this is the fact that part in the trailer where she says, "Are you not rich?" And that has not been captured in the actual content that we are seeing. So some people are questioning that because they obviously wanted to hear the rest of that particular answer or question. And then Jojo is getting a lot of Twitter love, shall we call it. And yes, there's a whole lot of discussion around, there's different angles to the stories, there's sub-stories, and this is literally just going to set the Twitterverse ablaze. I have no doubt at all.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a resurgence of love for Lassie, whereas the first part of this reunion, she didn't receive too much love. We're going to park it right there. Yavi Madurai, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.